Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Kubeir. By now you already know that, but let's get rid of this screen. Hello and welcome welcome to the channel. My name is Kubeir, but you know that already. And another weekly live episode of what is going on with IRCC. Somebody needs to go and shake them up and sort of bring them out of their slumber. Sometimes you wake up expecting things, but then we all expect things, of course. And then a different roll of dice is what is thrown by IRCC, and it leaves all of us thinking, gasping for breath, trying to understand what exactly is going on, sometimes trying to make some sense out of it, and usually we fail. I'm talking about the most recent, not the most recent, but the second most recent express entry draw that IRCC conducted, inviting only 500 people. I actually went and I wanted to check when has this last happened that they invited only 500 people. Actually, they did invite few people. Like they have gone right down to 118 invitations. Only 118 invitations, but that was when they were conducting draws specific for PNPs only. 118, 143, 180, those kind of small numbers we have seen in the past. This was during the COVID when they were conducting the draws. They would conduct PNP, then CEC, PNP, CEC. So as many nominations were issued, the numbers was always small, and that was the small number we've seen. But I have never ever seen IRCC conducting a general draw or a CEC draw which was only for 500 invitations. For this one, definitely left us foxed as to what exactly are they thinking, what exactly is going on. And of course, because we are all over the social media, we see so many comments, we see so many concerns, we see all that which comes up. And one of the biggest one that I've been seeing is that the quotas are over, the quotas are done, quotas are finished, and IRCC has achieved its target, and therefore they are not they are not issuing any more invitations. I don't agree with that but I don't have anything to support it with. But at the same point of time, neither do you, when you are saying that the quotas are done and over. But we will talk more about this in detail in terms of these quotas and the targets and what is in store for us when it comes to the 1st of November. Of course, I'm just going to write this down before I forget it. 1st of November, targets, of course, PGWP changes that are coming. And there is one change which was announced, but it hasn't been implemented. It hasn't come into effect yet. And that is another one which, honestly speaking, some of you should really be worried about. And that is about the spouse open work permits. Now, it was said later this year, the changes will be coming. I don't know when later this year, because we are almost towards the end of the year. We have just a couple of months left. So I'm not sure when that comes into play, but that one is another one which you need to be aware of. And if you are a person in Canada or even outside, depending on your condition, and if you are looking to submit an application for spouse open work permit, then my recommendation for you is to do it pronto. Please don't wait. Please don't think you will do it later on, because whenever this change will happen, whenever this announcement will be confirmed, it pretty much will happen effective immediately. So because the change has already been announced, so it is only the criteria which has to be announced, and it might happen effective immediately, and then you would be left high and dry there. So my recommendation to anybody, any kind of spouse open work permits that you're looking to apply, please apply at the earliest. Do not wait, because these changes are implying and are connected to the kind of work that you do. As of right now, if you are an open work permit holder, if you're a postgraduate work permit holder, then whether your work experience is part-time or full-time, it doesn't matter. Whether you are working in NOC tier code 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it doesn't matter. Any tier code, any part-time or full-time job, unless of course it's seasonal agricultural job, then that might be a bit of a caveat where you would not be eligible. But otherwise, for postgraduate work permit holders, for your spouses, you can apply under all these conditions. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter you're doing part-time, full-time. A lot of you are confused. Part-time, full-time, does it matter? It doesn't matter. Tier code 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, does it matter? No, it doesn't matter. You should be working and you should have at least 3 pay stubs. Go ahead and apply. So this is my suggestion for all of you guys, because this one is going to hit really, really hard for a lot of you out there. And then, yeah, don't say that I didn't tell you. Let's get started with what we have in line for today. Canadian Immigration Weekly Roundup. Stay up to date on the immigration news, trends, processes, updates with us all over the place. We are basically all over the place. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, of course. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, I'm still not sure what you're thinking of. What are you waiting for? Because by now you should have hit on that button and also the bell icon, so you get these updates when we come up with these live streams and any kind of new updates that as and how they happen. Today's topics of discussion, as usual, PNPs and updates, other news, we have a bit of that. And of course, we will get to the question and answers. And I can see a lot of you already posting your questions. Please hold them back so that, when we get to the question and answer session, you can then start shooting them and we can take them on pretty quickly. Starting with the PNP draws, British Columbia on the 8th of October, they have held their targeted draws. Now, British Columbia has been pretty much on the spot. They are very regular, very consistent. They don't miss a beat every week. This time, 83 invitations in the tech occupation, score of 116. 44 for childcare, score of 83. 25 in construction with a score of 89. 21 in healthcare with a score of 99. Pretty high there. And yeah, that is basically there. Ontario, and then Ontario came up with a draw on the 8th of October. This was the employer job offer foreign worker stream, where they issued 1,728 notifications of interest, but these were largely targeted occupations, so they haven't done a general draw since January, I think, this year. And before January this year, they hadn't done a draw in the general category for employer job offer stream for nearly 2 years. So you can imagine how rare are those draws to come by. But this one, as I was saying, is for the skilled trade occupations, 885 invitations, score of 48. And then the other priority occupations, they've listed out plenty of them there, 841 invitations that went out over there, score of 52. Manitoba. Now, sorry, before we go on, let's talk a bit about Ontario's employer job offer stream, because apparently it is still confusion creating stream. It's not. Employer job offer stream, international student stream. These are the two main expression of interest stream. There are a couple of others as well, but these are the two main streams. The difference between the two: international student stream, you do not need any work experience. You should have completed your education from an eligible institutions within the last 2 years, and you should have a job offer. And the wages in your job offer that you have from an employer should be at least meeting the low wage for that particular job, for that particular geographic location. Of course, for both the streams, the employer has to be eligible, which basically means the employer, if the employer is inside the Toronto GTA area, then they should have an annual income of $1 million, have 5 employees who are PRs or citizens. And if they're outside the Toronto GTA area, then they should have an annual income of $500 of $500,000, $500,000, and they should have at least 3 employees who are PRs or citizens. And of course, they have to be willing to support your application. By support, it means they should be willing to sign the employer form. The form is available on the Ontario website. Versus the employer job of a foreign worker stream. Employer conditions are the same. The other conditions that you need to meet as a candidate is that you should have at least 2 years of work experience for the same knock code that you're getting a job offer for. And your job offer should offer you median wages for that knock in that occupation within that geographic location. So this is the primary condition for these employer job offer streams, and this is how it is different from the international student stream. I hope you got that. Okay, let's move on. What else have we got? Then we had the Manitoba draw. Now, Manitoba draw, what did they do? October 10th, they conducted the month's first draw, invited 234 candidates under the skilled worker overseas category and international education stream. 234 letters of advice were issued in this draw, and of which 36 were issued to candidates who had a valid express entry profile, which basically means once they get the nomination, they will get their 600 points. Express entry. I'm even scared to go ahead and talk about express entry, but here it goes. Express entry, they invited the PNP. Of course, the PNP draw happened on Monday. They invited 1613 candidates. Score was 743. So whenever now we have a draw on Monday with the PNP, obviously our hopes are up. We're all thinking and singing songs of joy, expecting an express entry draw which will follow category or CEC. But this time, what IRCC did, it took a big pail of hot boiling water and just threw it all over us, trying to sort of wake us up from our slumber to tell us that, hey, it's IRCC who is the boss, because they conducted a draw on the 9th of October, inviting only and only ridiculous number of 500 people only. I don't know why. And of course, as you would anticipate, the scores shot up to 539. If it's not ridiculous, I don't know what it is. But as I said, of course, IRCC is the boss. They know better. They know what they're trying to do. But it sort of brings us to a few things in question, right? Let's take a look at this first. Now, this was the express entry pool breakdown. When you look at this breakdown, you see 501 to 600 is sitting at 12,312. Now, just a couple of days before this, when the draw was conducted on the 7th of October for the PNP, this pool breakdown stood at about 11,800, roughly around that number. So just in a span of 2 days, just 2 days, you had more than 500 people with the score of 501 plus who joined the pool. Now, obviously, I guess the biggest anticipation was that the CEC draw is around the corner. So more people who were like finalizing, waiting, thinking, jumped into the pool as well. But it's an unprecedentedly large number of people who are joining the pool with such high scores. Now, I know, I have heard it all about the people LMIAs and the fraud with the LMIAs and people getting an LMIA and blah, blah, blah. We have heard it. We have seen it. We know about it. Part of it, I will not disagree with you. I agree to that debate that there is some amount of activity involved where people are obtaining their LMIAs through the unscrupulous manner. Understandable. But all of it is not that. I do not know why people are just unwilling to believe that there are a lot of people out there who are actually qualified, they have the credentials, they have the score, and without getting an LMIA, without buying an LMIA, they can actually score good 520, 525, easy peasy, no problem. And in many cases, I have got a lot of clients who genuinely have an employer and the employer is genuinely giving them an LMIA or applying for an LMIA for them because they want to retain that employee. It's all legit, all genuine. So, yeah, I mean, as much as I know how irritating it might be for you to sort of feel that there are so many people, more than 500, who can get to that score, trust me, majority of them are legit. Of course, I can never say or I can never talk about how many of those are the ones who may have obtained LMIA through whatever means that you might think of. There are also big numbers of ICT, intra-company transfers, who are also included this because, they might be eligible with their 50 points or 200 points after they would have completed their Canadian work experience as well. So there is a big number of those people who are also part of this group. But 12,312, now what is that telling you? That is telling you, my friends, that the scores are not going down. The scores are now only going up. I know beginning of the year, I was very, very, very hopeful that 500 should definitely clear out, because at no point of time I saw a situation where the scores won't come below 500. On the contrary, I was quite positive and it was quite promising that 490s should see the light of the day. But looks like, obviously, IRCC had different plans, and it was those gaps in the draw. Right now, the gap in the draw 2 weeks back, the gap in the draw a few months back, gap in the draw for nearly a month. It's those gaps that are completely ruining and killing the whole score that you would have seen otherwise. Otherwise, I'm quite certain you would have definitely seen a score of 500, even getting cleared out by 500 quite easily. But as I said, IRCC is the big boss, and they want to constantly remind us that they are the ones who will call the shots here. Now, as far as this whole thing about the express entry coming to an end, first of all, express entry is not coming to an end. Express entry is not a program. Express entry is just a system. Within express entry, you have CEC, you have FSW, you have FSTC, Federal Skilled Trade Category. So these are the programs within the system. So even if express entry shuts down, closes down, it doesn't mean the programs are closing down. It just basically means that they might be having a new system, a new process which will manage these applications. So at this point of time, there is zero indication of express entry closing down or express entry shutting down. So that's the first thing. Second thing about the targets and quotas. Well, you already know that each year they announce the targets for the following years and then another 2 years following that. And this is the multi-year immigration levels plan that IRCC now has announced. For the last 2 or 3 years, they've been doing this. The next one is expected on the 1st of November. Also, please bear in mind that whenever you see the express entry, let me see if I can pull that up. Whenever you see the express entry targets, they are always a range. There is a minimum range, there is a higher range, and the main targets that you look at for this year, 485,000, that is the middle level, the average, what you're expecting. So it's not a fixed number. So it's not like once they reach 485, they will stop issuing permanent resident COPRs. Also, because it's a dynamic number, and because the number of invitations that they want to issue is for the year, but the immigration levels plan is, which is also for the year, but it's sort of, so this is how it works, right? The number of invitations that are being issued every time, they take time to process. So once you get an ITA, you have 60 days to complete your application. Depending on when you submit your application, then you get your biometrics request or the medical request, and after that, application goes into processing, and then once it is processed, you get your COPR, right? If you're inside Canada, you get your Portal 1, Portal 2, and your COPR by email. If you're outside Canada, you get your passport request. So this is by and large how the whole process works. Now, if you were to get an invitation today, for example, there is no way, except rare circumstances, as rare as the blue moons that we see once in a while, you are going to get your permanent residence this year, which basically means they will go to the next year, and that they will again go against the targets, the quotas for next year. So all the invitations that are being issued right now, probably from July, August onwards, even September onwards, all these invitations are being issued against the targets, against the quotas for next year, 2025. Now, this is where the caveat comes into play. IRCC already knows what the new immigration levels plan is, for which is going to be announced probably, not probably, will be announced on the 1st of November. You expecting it? I'm expecting it. I'm expecting to see a big number being cut off. I was anticipating 15%. Somebody told me it could go even as much as 20% because they really want to see some changes there. But I think 20% is a bit too much, because each year they've been increasing by between 8 to 12%. So if they're going to cut off the numbers, I think probably going to be around the same number, 12% to 15%. But going with the 15% cut, you are looking to see a reduction of nearly, 60, 70,000 people less. So if this year is 485, next year is going to be 500,000, 500,000. So next year, instead of 500,000, you could very well see 420, 440 kind of a number. 440,000 kind of a number would then basically means that cuts have to come from some specific category. In my opinion, they can't really reduce the number of the family class, or they can't make a big number drop there. Family class, why? Because it is directly impacting their vote bank. These are the people who might be citizens, whose spouses and parents need to be brought into Canada. They are not going to ruffle them up at this point of time. They're already not having a lot of favor from the people. Then there are those refugees and HNC, humanitarian and compassionate. Again, though they should definitely start looking at those numbers, but I'm not sure how much of a cut that's going to make. Then comes the economic pathways, and that is where the biggest chunk is going to get slashed from. At least that's the expectation. And therefore, it will come to the PNPs, and it will come to the express entry, the federal high skilled. That's where you're going to see the biggest chunk being cut off. But of course, we're going to have to wait for another 17, 18 days for the 1st of November. That is when the new targets will be announced. But as far as the quotas being over, or as far as the targets being completed, express entry shutting down, that's not happening. That's all baloney. Express entry is not shutting down. But yes, is there a possibility that IRCC is slowing down the intake of the applications? It's a possibility. Is IRCC revamping their categories as to who they are assigning how many invitations to? That is a possibility, because mind you, CEC was never in the picture. It was never part of the plan, at least not in April, or at least before that, when IRCC had decided to conduct these category draws. At least CEC was not part of the plan then. CEC was made part of the plan because of so much of uproar that was happening within the within Canada, right? And Mark Miller had come out and said domestic draws make sense. After that, they went out, and in May onwards, from May onwards, they've started conducting CEC draws. So CEC was not part of the plan. They've had to make CEC part of the plan, and because they've had to make CEC part of the plan, obviously they've had to make cuts somewhere, which probably, I mean, not probably, but definitely has the result has been you seeing lesser number of draws as far as categories are concerned. STEM took a huge hit. We haven't seen another category for STEM for the draw. Healthcare, haven't seen much happening there either. Of course, at the same point of time, transport, skilled trades, agriculture also not seeing another draw. So, in my opinion, based on the fact that CEC was never part of the plan, I would only assume that you're not seeing the other categories at this point of time, primarily and only because they had to make room for CEC, and that had to come from somewhere. And the only place that it could come from was the allocations given to categories. Now, for some reason, Francophone category hasn't really seen a hit, or it hasn't taken a hit. But again, that also has a lot to do with the political agenda there. And I think not only now, but next year, 2025, 2026, 2027, you will not see any slowdown as far as the Francophone categories are concerned. So if you are still, for whatever reason you might be, but if you are still on the fence as far as taking up French as a second language is concerned, you should seriously get started. At least if Canada is your dream, if Canada is what you want to make out of in terms of making it your home. So please do consider French as your category or something which you can pay more attention to. Right, there you go. That was the next draw that happened on the 9th of October. 1,000 ITAs were issued. The score of Francophone category draw, this was the express entry draw which happened after the CEC. Score was 444. A lot of you were already anticipating this draw once the CEC draw at 500 happened. So yeah, this was something which happened, and it was quite unsurprising, I would say. Other news, we have a little bit of that, so we'll talk about this. Now, Quebec has come out, and since the 9th of October, so it's already in effect. So this was the Gazette that was made public on the Quebec website, and here what they are saying is that through their regular skilled worker program, the French acronym for which is PRTQ, for this particular program, which is one of the two larger immigration programs in Quebec, the number of invitations will be restricted to 25% of any single nationality. Now, when I posted this, when I made a short video on this, there were lots of comments, because of course comments are always welcome. We get to understand your opinion, we get to understand what your views are, and a lot of them were targeting Indians, because obviously Indians are forming a large portion of permanent residents who come to Canada, a large portion of temporary residents who are making Canada their home. So obviously a lot of those comments had to do with the fact that Quebec is doing this because so that they can restrict Indians, and Ontario should do it. IRCC should do it. Now, whether IRCC does it or not, I don't know. At this point of time, it's looking very difficult for IRCC to come back with any nationality quotas, because if that is to happen, they would have to make a lot of changes from the IRPA onwards to the ministerial instructions. So I don't see that happening. Probably they will have to first table a bill in the Parliament, in the House of Commons, and then start from there. So I don't see that happening anytime soon. As far as the other provinces taking heed is concerned, I also don't see that happening. Why? Because Quebec by itself has always had a more independent immigration program. They had more autonomy, they had more authority on their own immigration program. That's why Quebec immigration program is completely separate. They have entire control on the international students, the intake of international students, which by the way, they have also decided to cut down upon, because they issue a separate CAQ in order for students to apply for their study permit. Similarly, they have now decided that they want to restrict, or they want to impose nationality-wise quota. Now, I know a lot of you sort of said that, hey, this basically means Indians are going to be restricted. Well, I want to damp your spirits for a bit. And because it has got nothing to do with Indians by itself, if you see, this is on your screen. immigrants by country of birth for Quebec. This is the Quebec database, and this is the Quebec website. Again, don't worry about the link. The link is in the description box, so you don't have to ever worry about the links for anything that I show you on the screen. This was for 2019 to 2023, and they're telling you that the France was the country where they had the largest number of immigrants from, especially in Quebec. They had 33,000 from France, which formed 13% of their total targets. And then they had China as number 2. And then they had Cameroon at number 3. This was from the 2019 to 2023. But if you look only at 2023, only the last year, then out of the 52,000 that they had, France again sat right on top with 6,800. And Cameroon was number 2, 6,239. India is way below 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Ninth position, India had only 1,465. Not too many Indians who are eligible for this programs as far as Quebec is concerned. And from 2019 to 2023, again, India was at number 8 in terms of the number of people who came to Quebec from India, as far as who became permanent residents. Only 8,651 out of a total of 237,000. So, dear friends, as far as the country-wise cap is concerned, as much as a lot of you are talking about India, or there is a lot of anti-India sentiment right now in Canada. Hate to break it to you, but this particular change has had to do more with restricting certain countries in Northern Africa or even Africa, as in where they may not have a dominant role to play within the Quebec immigration. Of course, they're doing this to create more diversity, which always is welcome. I would say diversity across Canada should be welcome. I'm not sure how they're going to implement it, at least not at this point of time. Within the near future, I don't see any kind of country cap coming country-wise, or country-wise cap coming Canada-wise. I don't see across Canada that kind of a thing happening, at least not in the near future. Long term, maybe just the way US has a 7% kind of a cap, Canada could be heading that way as well. But at this point of time, it seems a bit unlikely. So this was the diversity attempt from Quebec, trying to impose, not trying to, but have decided that the cap would be at 25% of the total invitations, cannot go to any single nationality. Whew. So there you go. That's our weekly roundup. Connect with us on the social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, whatnot. Hey, and you know what, guys, you already know that I am currently in Dubai. Most of you are already aware. And of course, if you wish to come and drop by in our office, please do. You can always make an appointment to sort of discuss your case, your application one-on-one. This is the link. We can do a virtual consultation as per your convenience. Or of course, if you're in Dubai, you can also come and drop by at our office in Dubai, 1 Central. At the same point of time, for a change, after a long time, Saudi Arabia is finally on the cards, and we have a trip which has been finalized for Saudi. So I'm there in Riyadh on the 17th and 18th of October, which is 4 days from now. And then 19th and 20th, I'm in Jeddah. Therefore, the appointment slots have been opened. So if you are in Saudi, you want to discuss your pathways, your applications, your processes, your queries, your concerns, then I guess come and have a meet, come have a cup of coffee with me, and then we can chat and discuss what we can do as far as your processes are concerned. So this is the link. You can again book your appointments as far as Saudi is concerned. Riyadh, 17th, 18th, Jeddah, 19th, 20th. By all means, please do that. We're very happy to sort of meet with you and talk to you. There was one more thing. Yes, of course. Very quickly, I want to just remind you about the spouse open work permits very quickly. Now, spouse open work permit restrictions were also announced when Mark Miller talked about the postgraduate work permit changes, right? Now, right, postgraduate work permits, they now, from the 1st of November onwards, they will need English language exams when they are applying for postgraduate work permits. Also, from 1st of November onwards, anybody who's making an application for study permit, if their field of study does not match with the occupation which is in a long-term shortage list, you may not be eligible for your postgraduate work permit after you complete your studies. At the same point of time, Mark Miller also announced more restrictions are going to come when you make an application for spouse open work permit. Master's degree holders, now, until now, if you were completing a master, if you were studying masters in Canada, 1 year, 2 year program did not matter. Your spouses were eligible for an open work permit. IRCC has now implemented a policy where you have to be completing a 16-month master. You have to be studying a 16-month master in order to be eligible for a spouse open work permit. No changes for PhD students. Similarly, they have also announced that there will be more changes as far as spouse open work permit is concerned, with the fact of the principal applicant in Canada, the kind of job your principal applicant is performing in Canada. Now, that could be very tricky because until now they didn't give too much of explanation. What jobs, what knock codes, what would that be? But C-level executives, some STEM categories, some professionals under some again, I guess, healthcare, trade, construction, those should definitely be included. I'm not sure what the knock codes will be. I'm not sure whether it will be as per the tier codes, just like it used to be before, or what. But these restrictions are coming. And when these restrictions will come, they probably are going to take effect immediately, like they did it last time in the month of April. So if you are a person who is looking to apply for your spouse's open work permit, please do not wait. These changes, once they are announced, they will impact you directly, and you may not be in a position to apply for your spouse's open work permit at that point of time. So if you are looking to do that, please go ahead and get your application sorted out. Okay. Okay. Do you have any news about the Francophone community pilot? Well, of course, just like IRCC, just like what Mark Miller does, they announce a lot of programs, but then we never hear about the implementation date. For example, you see, Sean Fraser 2 years back had announced that startup visa applicants will be able to apply for an open work permit. It took 2 years for them to put that into play, and only now applicants who have applied for startup visa will be eligible for their open work permit. Similarly, they announced the Francophone community pilot. They announced that the RNIP, Rural Northern Immigration Pilot, will be reopening, and then we don't hear back as to what exactly is going on. I've been hearing about the municipality community program for a very long time. Haven't heard anything about that. We also heard a lot about the what was that one? The child care and home support worker program, that they will land in Canada and will become permanent residents on arrival, and then we didn't hear anything about that either. So there are so many of these change, and of course, how can I forget tier 4, tier 5, right? Those are that was also the announcements that they are launching a new program for tier 4, tier 5 category to become permanent residents. And then again, all silence. We didn't hear anything about that. So there are these things, it's like IRCC will drop a bombshell any day. They can come up with the tier 4, tier 5, or completely forget about it. They can come up with the home support program and child caregiver program, revamped one, or completely forget about it. Or they can come up with the RNIP. RNIP, they should come at some point of time. Francophone community, they will come for sure, because, hey, it's on their agenda as well. But no, there is no update as to when that is coming into play. I don't... So this is what Rafael has to say. Rafael says, I believe they will invite less and less to keep the CRS as high as possible. No, that is not true. I don't agree with that. So you see, as far as IRCC is concerned, IRCC doesn't care about the CRS being high or low. It is purely based on the demand. The higher the demand, the higher the scores. The supply is always going to be limited. The supply in this case is the number of invitations. It's not like IRCC has an endless supply of ITA, that they will keep throwing out ITAs and they will keep inviting people. Of course not, right? There's a small number. Now, if they have a small number, they have to be more pragmatic as to when they're going to be sending out those invitations. So it's not IRCC who's looking to... they are not your stock exchange, your NASDAQ or whatever, who's trying to control the prices of the stock, or who's trying to in whose best interest it is to see a higher CRS score. What difference does it make to IRCC if the score is higher, right? It's not like that they're getting the desirable candidates to get to that higher score. So no, it's not the higher score that is helping IRCC in any which ways specifically, or rather this kind of high scores. I think it has only to do with their plan as to how they wish to send out the remaining number of ITAs, whatever they are left with for this year. Okay, let's see. We have lots of super chat questions. Let's start getting out with those and clearing those. Nothing here, Shakar. Okay, got PR through CEC, lived outside Quebec for 1 year after getting PR, then moved to Quebec due to hybrid work change by Quebec employer from remote work. Is it okay for PR renewal and citizenship? Yes, yes, there is no problem at all. I mean, I know what you're thinking because you applied from through Express Entry and your intention was to live outside Quebec. But once you became a PR, it was not conditional that you continue to live outside Quebec. So in your case, please go ahead and move. If you have to move to Quebec, there's no problem. You will not face any problems for your renewal or for citizenship for that matter. Wife does high school diploma through adult education on open work permit. Can she claim points in Express Entry or in any PNP program? Well, if this program, if this diploma was completed outside Canada, then you can get the evaluation done. And once you have the evaluation, then you can claim the points for it. I have been PR under CEC and lived in Ontario for 6 months, but now I'm getting better offers in Quebec. Is it okay to relocate? Oh, yes. I just answered that question. It's absolutely fine. You can take up jobs in Quebec as well because now you're already a permanent resident in this case. I applied for a visitor record now. If I withdraw my application, will my stay here be considered maintained status or it will also cause problem? If you withdraw your application for visitor record, then it's a problem. And the reason is you are on a maintained status because of your visitor record. If this visitor record application is cancelled or withdrawn, it basically means you have lost status from the day your work permit or your original period of stay expired. From that date onwards, you do not have status. That's what it would mean if you were to withdraw your application. I have two questions. First is, how can I show expression of interest for changing province in my EE profile while living in Quebec? And other is, will CEC draw continue in 2025? Well, in my opinion, CEC draws will continue, at least if not directly as CEC, they may continue under the general category. But I think the express entry draws will continue. As far as intention of living outside Quebec, well, that is a very, very individual thing. It all depends. What are your circumstances? Where are you working? Are you working in an open work permit? Are you working on a closed work permit? If you're working on a closed work permit, then you're bound by the conditions of your work permit. Means your work permit conditions are very clear. You can only work in the same location where your work permit is from. And if your employer doesn't have an office outside Quebec, then obviously you have to continue working there. So that becomes one of the reasons why you are in Quebec. And you can always say that you're looking for employment opportunities outside. Provide proof of your effort of your attempt. But if you're in an open work permit, then you have to come up with a better idea as to why is it that you're living in Quebec when you could be living outside, because then saying that I am living in Quebec because of my job doesn't really help, because that does not go very well with your intent. So it's a very individual thing. You have to look at your circumstances, provide proof or evidence to support your claims to show that you would like to live outside Quebec. HR says she can extend my work permit for 1 year by submitting through employer portal, but no LMIA. Can she do it? If so, what the program is called as? Well, I don't know what your HR is referring to. Maybe you can ask them. But in your condition, until and unless you were applying through the Francophone Mobility Program, or if you had any kind of provision from the province which allows you to apply for work permit, then you do not have, or if your employment was LMIA exempt, for example, you were a sports coach, or if you were a religious worker, then in those conditions, you might have an opportunity where your employer can create your job offer on the employer portal. But under regular circumstances, no, that is not the option that you may have to apply for a work permit extension. Father's name in passport and in birth certificate is different. Will this cause trouble in my non-EE profile? No, not really. You can always provide a one and the same person affidavit from your father, and that should suffice. Plus, from what I'm seeing in the name, I don't think there is too much of a difference. I think it's just a matter of alphabet here and there. So that's not going to create any issue. So don't worry about it. You can prepare an explanation and you can add a one and the same person affidavit. My friend didn't show foreign work in study permit, postgraduate work permit, has reference letter, cash salary vouchers, risky to include. He's short 5 days of 3 years. Can he go to India to gain while employed in Canada? Isn't it interesting? Why didn't you disclose it in your study permit, if I may ask? Why didn't you disclose it in your postgraduate work permit, if I may ask? The reason why you guys don't disclose it, there is always another reason. Some of you will say, my agent did not do it. I mean, who asked your agent not to do it? Some of you will say, well, I did not complete this work experience, or I didn't have the documentation. Well, all of that does not work, because the question in your study permit application is very simple. Do you have any work experience? If you do, list it down. It doesn't say provide documentation. It doesn't say it should be for these many years. None of that. So you chose to hide your work experience. You chose. And you chose for a reason, because you thought that if you will disclose your work experience, you may not get a study permit. So the way it is seen as, it is material misrepresentation, because you have withheld information based on which the visa officer may have been influenced in his decision. And therefore, if IRCC, when you disclose it now in your PR application, you choose to disclose it, it's a huge risk that you are taking. And if you choose to do it, then understand that if IRCC highlights it as something which you did not disclose before, and it asks you for explanation, you basically will get a PFL, procedural fairness letter. And if you're not convincing enough as to why did you not disclose it before, and now how come you have this work experience, then not only do you get a refusal, you will also risk a 5-year ban for misrepresentation. Now, I know of a few people who have done it and they got away with it. But I also know of people who have procedural fairness letter, who are fighting it out right now, who are trying to convince IRCC. And I also know of people who are not so lucky and who did land themselves a 5-year ban for misrepresentation. Now, actually, they have filed a case in the court for a judicial review trying to fight their ban. I'm not sure how successful they will be in this case, because to be very honest, even if the federal court is going to look at it, this is material misrepresentation. So the risk is yours. I would not suggest or recommend something of this sort. LMIA exempt through Francophone, can I claim 50 points? Yes, you can. After completing 1 year of work experience on the closed work permit, you can claim 50 points for the job offer. Can you apply closed or open work permit on point-based LMIA? First of all, there is no such thing as point-based LMIA. You may have a PR supporting LMIA, which gives you only 50 points. And if your LMIA is PR supporting only, then I'm afraid you cannot get a work permit on your LMIA. And if your LMIA is dual intent, or if it's a high wage, low wage LMIA, then yes, you can apply for a work permit, but it can only be closed work permit. You can never get an open work permit on the LMIA. Why? Because LMIA is meant for you to work only for a specific employer in a specific job under specific conditions. Therefore, it can only be a closed work permit. International student, Seneca College, 2-year diploma, spouse open work permit was denied, even it was eligible back then. What visa option my spouse has now? First of all, you can order the GCMS notes to understand why was it refused. If it has been refused quite recently, then you can request for reconsideration by explaining. But what you are facing, I have seen a lot of international students facing. It seems IRCC just chooses to refuse a lot of spouse open work permits at this point of time. Yeah, it's for example, it seems like they are they've made up their mind. They've decided that they're going to refuse more and more applications. I know it sounds really bad, but hey, it's IRCC, right? And what can we do about it? So at this point of time, what you can do is, apply for a visitor record. You can apply for reconsideration, request IRCC for reconsideration. And if your spouse is outside Canada, and if 60 days haven't passed since the application was refused, then you can also consider hiring an immigration lawyer and filing a case for judicial review. Postgraduate work permit is under process after masters. My spouse is in Canada, want to apply for spouse open work permit extension. Should I wait for postgraduate work permit to get processed or apply for spouse open work permit? Well, if your postgraduate work permit is in process, I'm not able to understand. So you are asking me that your postgraduate work permit is in process. Should you wait for it to be finalized, as in you get your postgraduate work permit and then apply? Well, you can do both. You can apply if your spouse's work permit is expiring. Obviously, then you would be in a rush to make your application. And then in that case, yes, go ahead and apply. Make sure you provide complete documentation, which is most importantly your employment letter with your job roles and responsibilities, your pay stubs, and add a letter of explanation providing the details of your postgraduate work permit application, and request them to link it so that once your postgraduate work permit has been approved or processed, they can continue with the processing of your spouse open work permit. Once you do get your postgraduate work permit, make sure that you upload a copy of that, your work permit, through the web form to be linked to your open work permit application. Can you change knock code of Indian or Canadian experience after ITA CEC? Yes, you can. There is no problem in changing the knock code. At most, you can add a very brief explanation as to why do you need to change the knock code. But to answer the question, yes, you can absolutely change the knock code. Does vacation pay hours count towards CEC or FSW experience? No, it doesn't count, in the sense like at most you can claim two weeks of paid vacation. That's what IRCC website says. Now, anything more than 2 weeks of paid vacation, it will be IRCC's discretion whether they accept that or not. But up to 2 weeks, they don't have a problem. You can claim that as part of your work experience. It's not an issue. Anything more than that, then it's always going to be discretionary. So the workaround that would be to continue working and gathering additional work experience in Canada so that it compensates for any lapse or any lack of work experience you might have. What chances IRCC prioritizing category on November 1 opposed to CEC making category draws mainstream? I don't understand your question at all. And as far as November 1 is concerned, it has got nothing to do with announcing categories or making any changes to the categories. November 1 has got only to do with the annual targets that are announced for permanent residences under different classes, under different streams. Got nothing to do with categories or prioritizing CECs or category. Nothing to do with that at all. So November 1 has only to do with the annual level, multi-year level immigration targets. Will I get request for biometrics again? My previous biometrics was given while study permit, and so I'm assuming you're asking whether you will be requested for biometrics for your permanent residence application. The answer is yes, you would. For some reason, IRCC feels, and this is one of those things which I've never been able to understand, that your fingerprints change from your study permit to your permanent residence application. Whatever the logic there is, I don't know. But yes, you do need to give your you need to basically do your biometrics again. Once your PR application is in process, IRCC will ask you for it. And the processing time as of right now is roughly 5 to 6 months for CECs. A lot of applications are getting processed faster as well. We got one done in like 40 days flat very recently, and then we got another one for 2 months or 11 days. So applications are happening quite fast, but it's not like everybody's application is getting processed fast. Some applications do go through the process very, very quickly. I do not know why only some applications go through it quickly, why not others as well. But we are seeing a faster decision making there. But on an average, if you ask me, 5-6 months at most is what you're looking at in most cases. Spouse open work permit applied at British Columbia border, got appointment for December 11. Can I go to another port of entry, or I can't because I'm in the system? No, you can go to any port of entry. It's not a problem. Even if you have an appointment at a different port of entry, it's not a problem. You can flagpole from a different port of entry and try and apply for your work permit. I'm waiting for the transport draw. Any news about the draw? This category has 3% quota. Do you think this quota of category will also be used by CEC? Well, I can see why people are now concerned and worried about the quotas of different categories being used up. Well, first of all, I don't have any clarity or any credible or reliable information which says this is how it has happened. But it's only logical to think that when the quotas for the category draws for the general category was only 21%, and then they had CEC and they have been issuing CEC in such large numbers, then obviously that numbers have to come from somewhere. They don't have like an endless supply, as I said. Nearly, I think about 87 to 90,000, 87, 88,000 invitations have already been issued this year. Now, I know transport has 3% quota, but I do not know how many invitations they will still. I absolutely believe that category draws will happen this year, at least for each category, at least one draw. I believe that, at least. But I can't say how many invitations will go for each category. There is no way for me to predict that at all. Completed study 22-23 online from Canada per IRCC rule. EE asks now if 50% classes were in person. Answer no. I lose 15 points. Yes is the wrong info. IRCC covered PGWP eligibility, but not EE on this. What to do? Well, you can then answer it as yes, so that you get your points, and then add a letter of explanation stating that you completed this education online, but this period of education was covered by the by IRCC's policy, which gave you that exemption to continue studying online. But make sure you add that letter of explanation along with your education documents, and you should be fine. I have made a mistake in postgraduate form, IMM, whatever. How can I correct it before and refusal comes? Please guide as to how to correct. Well, I do not know what kind of a mistake you have made. It depends. Now, if that mistake is material, then you might not be able to save yourself on this one. Regardless of what it is, and I'm not sure what you're worried about here, so because I don't know what the mistake is, what you can do is you can make a new form, IMM 5710, I think is what you're referring to here, and you can upload it through the web form and request IRCC to attach or link the new form and ignore the previous one. That is the only thing basically what you can do. Now, it is entirely up to IRCC whether they accept it or not, and it also depends on what kind of mistake you have made here. Okay, nearly 1800 people right now. Guys, hit on that like button so we get this stream to more and more people out there. Number one. Number two, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, I would like you to please do that so that my motivation levels go up, so that I continue to make more of these live streams and videos. But you know what? Yeah, like, share, subscribe, as they all say, so that we can keep this ball rolling. I have submitted my application for PR after getting my ITA, but on implied status, which I applied before work permit expired. How do I apply for bridge open work permit, as I'm confused, or can I not? If you are on an implied status as a worker, then you can absolutely apply for bridge open work permit. There is no problem with it. By all means, just go online where you are answering the questions, answer the questions saying you have the approval, as in the stage 1 approval for your PR application, and complete your application for bridge open work permit. That's all you need to do. This is on your screen. The IRCC website, which says bridge open work permit for permanent residence application, and it says who can apply for bridge open work permit. To be eligible, you must be living in Canada. That is the most important. You should either, so it's either of these, have a valid work permit, which is ideal, have an expired work permit but maintained your status as a worker. I guess this is the one that applies to you. So you have maintained your status as a worker. And even if your status had expired, but you are eligible to restore your status and get a work permit, then also you will be able to apply for a bridge open work permit. But for you, it's the second one which applies. So yeah, absolutely apply for your bridge open work permit. The details are here on the IRCC website, and you can use that as well. Okay, can I apply solo, non-accompanying my wife? We are both in Canada, and afterwards, can I sponsor her? Yes, technically you can. You see, now, a lot of people confuse accompanying, non-accompanying as somebody physically accompanying you for your PR. Now, PR application is an online application, okay? And they're asking you, is your spouse accompanying you in your application? A lot of times, even if your spouses, even if your partners, your spouse or your partner may not want to become a permanent resident. Your spouse or your partner may have other aspirations, other objectives, other goals, other resistances, challenges, reluctance to not wanting to become a permanent resident. It's absolutely fine. There is no issue. You cannot get penalized because you want to be a PR, but your spouse doesn't want to be a PR. So it's absolutely fine. There is no issue with it. Even if your spouse is in Canada, I have done hundreds of applications with spouse not accompanying. And once you become a PR, and if your spouse's intent to become a PR then changes, then yes, absolutely you can apply for your spouse's permanent residence through the spousal sponsorship. There's absolutely no problem with that. Can we apply for Bridge Open Work Permit and Spouse Open Work Permit extension together in a single application after receiving AOR spouse accompanying? Yes, Pratap, you can. There is no problem. Just the way you have applied for Postgraduate Work Permit and Spouse Open Work Permit together. Similarly, when you're applying for Bridge Open Work Permit, you can also apply for your Spouse Open Work Permit extension because your spouse is accompanying, so you can apply together. Just please make sure in your spouse's Open Work Permit extension application, you must add your employment letter, your employment reference letter with your job roles and responsibilities, and your 3 pay stubs or paychecks. That is extremely important. Don't forget that. Will the CRS points go down in near future? It is 539 right now. Too high. Of course it's too high, but that is only because, I don't know, somebody somewhere in IRCC office slipped, fell down, bumped their head, and came up with this ridiculous number. I don't know why they did that, but that's what they did. But of course, you don't expect them to continue issuing only 500 ITs, right? It's not logical. So of course, they will go back to issuing the regular number of invitations per draw. And once that happens, the scores will of course be lower. But overall, the scores are going to stay high. I anticipate that the next draw is going to be in, if it is CEC draw, it's going to be in 510s. When I'm saying 510s, I mean like probably 513, 514, 515 kind of a score. Again, depends on how many invitations and how soon they conduct the draw. About STEM, it will be at least one more draw. Well, at least I am quite hopeful that all categories, there would be at least one more draw. We still have 2.5 months to go, and they didn't conduct any more draws in any of the other categories as well. So at least I'm quite hopeful that there would be another draw for all categories at least. I got an ITA under foreign worker, but my international student general ITA has been in dip since July. Should I apply under foreign worker too? Oh, you're asking about the OINP. Well, if you already have an application under the international student stream, it makes no sense to apply again for another stream. And in that also, you will have to wait. Now, you're already in DIP, right? Now, when you're in DIP, which is basically decision in progress, now Ontario has been taking longer. They have been sending out messages to everybody saying that they need more time to process the applications. Of course, it's a backlog. I'm sure Ontario also must be coming quite close to their quota for this year. Their quota is roughly 20,000 nominations for this year. I think they should be pretty close to completing that as well. So I think they also need to meet their quotas and probably will be borrowing some of the quotas from the next year. So in my opinion, again, because it's also a matter of another $1,500 that you will have to spend, I wouldn't, unless there is a big problem in your international student stream application, which you think will get refused. Then it makes sense. Otherwise, if I was you, I wouldn't. I can't tell you what to do. It's your decision. It's your choice. I wouldn't do it. $1,500 again for another stream, and again wait through the whole process. I wouldn't do it. My friend applied for postgraduate work permit on the 2nd or the 12th of May, not received yet. She did 2 courses, working now. If work permit doesn't come till next month, what shall be done? Nothing to be done. Just continue working. You are on an implied status. An implied status means that until the decision is made, you can continue working. So in her case, your friend's case, she will continue working until the decision is made on the work permit application. No problem. My application tracker now shows COPR document, and in express entry, it shows final decision. Does it mean I am approved for PR? I am yet to receive P1. Yay! Yes, you are approved for PR. Congratulations. Well done. Don't worry. Your P1 email should come through soon. 10th of October was just last week. I mean, end of last week. So just give them some breathing time. Hopefully your P1 email should come through soon. In Francophone Mobility Program, open to all, NSLC 5 and a valid job offer is all I need. Are there any special requirements? Well, no, it is open to all. Yes, you need NCLC level 5 in your French examination. You need an employer job offer. Employer has to create the job offer on the employer portal. They have to pay a fee of $230. You will then have to take all of that documentation, the fee payment receipt, the portal screenshot, the job offer, your language test results, and your proof of work experience, so that which shows that you are able to perform this job. You will also need that proof of that as well. And so basically an employment reference letter with the pay stubs and proof of payment, and along with this you can then make an application. Can apply for study permit extension along with spouse open work permit extension before November, and later when I get job apply for postgraduate work permit before 150 days. Will there be any issues? I don't understand your question. If you are currently studying, then yes, you can apply for study permit extension along with your spouse open work permit extension. I'm not sure what you mean by before 150 days will there be any issue. So I'm not sure where this 150 days is coming, but if you are currently studying and you have a study program which is continuing, then of course you can apply for the spouse open work permit extension along with your study permit extension. Can I change job after AOR, PNP stream through Ontario Human Capital Priorities? No employer mentioned on PNP. Do I need to inform IRCC or OINP? Under the Ontario's Human Capital Priorities stream, there is no connection, no restriction on your job offer. So yes, you can absolutely change your job. There is no problem at all, and you don't need to inform Ontario or IRCC about it. There is no issues here at all. By all means, please go ahead. If you have a better job, take it. I have received my Portal 1 email 17 days ago and I'm traveling to India. Can I travel without ECOPR? I do have my work permit valid until 2026. Oh, okay. So the answer to that question is that you still need to receive your Portal 2 email. And even in your Portal 2 email, you will be asked whether you are inside Canada. And therefore, if you are not in Canada, you will not be able to answer that question. And therefore, you will not be able to complete that process. So if it is possible, try avoiding the travel at this point of time if you can. If not, then of course go ahead and travel. But if you can avoid it, then wait to get your Portal 2 and then maybe you can take a trip. My wife is on open work permit and I am on postgraduate work permit. Can my wife start studying after applying study permit and me to apply SOWP? No, you cannot, because your wife is currently on an open work permit, which basically means this is a change of status. Change of status gives you the authorization to continue staying in Canada, but it doesn't give you the authorization to start studying until your study permit is approved. So you will have to wait until your study permit is approved. And you are on a postgraduate work permit. So if you apply for an extension of the work permit, you can work because it's a work permit to work permit, but your spouse cannot study until the until the study permit is approved. My postgraduate work permit is under process after master's. My spouse is in Canada, want to apply for spouse open work permit extension. Should I wait for, oh, didn't we do this? We did this, right? Yeah, we did this. Yeah, I mean, if I didn't answer that earlier, you can, I think I did. It's already been cleared. Okay, what else have we got? What are your thoughts on the recently announced TFW policy? I'm not sure which one are you talking about because there have been so many policies that have been announced. And if you are referring to the temporary foreign worker policy with regards to the LMIAs, then I think it's quite late. They should have announced this policy much earlier. It's too little, too late, but I guess it is something. So at this point of time, it's the call of the hour. It's a good thing that they have made those changes. It's a good thing that the LMIA applications have been restricted. But if there is something else you are asking me, then I do not know which policy you are referring to, because there are so many policies which are changing every single day. I got Ontario Human Capital Priorities stream. However, my work permit extension is in process. If that gets rejected, I will lose 50 points for employment. So will I still be eligible for the stream? You got OINP HCP stream, which basically means you already have the job offer, or you have the nomination, or it's just notification of interest. I'm not sure. This question is incomplete. But if your application is in process and if your work permit gets rejected, uh, don't worry, you will not lose any points, because in human capital priorities stream, they are not calculating your points for job offer. They just want to know if you have the job offer, because they want to check whether you are eligible for the proof of fund exemption or not. So in your case, you don't have to be worried. We are stuck with 525. Can we expect general draw? Is the score enough? Well, 525, great score. General draw, very tricky question to answer, because I don't know, to be very honest. Earlier this year, they were quite gung-ho about general draw, because that included CEC mainly, largely, very few people without CEC. You are at 525, so I'm assuming you have an LMIA, probably 200 points LMIA, probably 50 points LMIA, I don't know. But there is no way to anticipate a general draw. At this point of time, I guess the big push is in IRCC wanting to convert the number of as many number of temporary residents into permanent residents, because of course that's, as I said, that's the need of the hour. So I have a feeling general draw is going to take a bit of a hit for some time. As it is, they are borrowing ITAs from different categories in order to fulfill CEC. So at this point of time, general may look quite difficult if it has to happen. But again, there is no way for me to predict. It can happen, it cannot happen. When it happens, there is no way for me to say. Actually, there's no way for anybody to say when a general draw may happen. I feel just like categories, they may conduct one general draw, because I know there are a lot of people who have come on intra-company transfers, who came on C10, C11, C12 programs, who are not eligible for Canadian work experience but are eligible for the job offer points. So they are all stuck with this problem at this point of time. And as much as it makes sense, I just don't know when that might happen. Some people are so obsessed with Indians, they always have to drag them no matter what is the issue. All their problems start with Indians. Well, what can I say? My CRS score is 498, and my husband, but without him, 513. Can I keep two applications, one with him, one without him? I will not recommend making two profiles. IRCC has been very, very clear that it is illegal to have multiple profiles. Instead, you go with 513. Okay. And because, to be very honest, 498 is looking quite difficult, quite challenging. It should not happen that you might lose your 513 opportunity also, because you might hit a happy birthday soon, or whenever it might be, and your 513 will very quickly go to 508. So if I was you, I would go with 513 and then take a call later on as the application processes. Because if the score is at 498 at this point of time, trust me, it's looking very, very challenging and difficult, until unless IRCC does something really, really crazy of issuing like 15,000 ITAs, then 498 is a possibility. But as I said, IRCC has recommended against creating multiple profiles, so I would not say, I would not recommend it either. Can I claim point for single intent LMIA in express entry if I take masters after my postgraduate work permit expire? I don't know what you mean by single intent LMIA. So if you mean PR supporting LMIA, can you claim points for it in express entry? Yes, you can. Even so, you taking masters, not taking masters, after postgraduate, before, none of that matters. What matters is that you have an LMIA. It gives you points. You take it. When, in which status, which stage you are in, that doesn't matter. I had 2 years of experience at one company, but I'm claiming only 1 year and not the first one, as I was trainee and had difficulty figuring out the knock code. Is this fine? It is absolutely fine. There is no issue. Just make sure that you mention this 1 year of work experience in your personal history. That is something which you must ensure, but it's not a problem at all. 1 year, 21232 in India, 6 months in Canada as well. Currently doing federal skill 73,200 for 4 months. Only have 6 months left. What are my best option? It's very difficult for me to sit at this point of time and figure out different options. What you can do is you can always check your express entry CRS score. You seem to have 21232, which is STEM. You might have 73200, which might be eligible under the skilled trades. But since it is only 4 months, that would not give you any advantage. So please check the provincial nominee program options. You can check your CRS score to see if express entry is an option for you. If not, then you can look at employer job offer. You can look at French as a second language, and then take it from there. Does CEC consider the number of hours as work experience or status of my job? Status of your job? What do you mean? Currently, my job states as part-time as manager, but my hours are full-time. So shall I apply in 1 year of experience? Okay, good question. So it doesn't matter whether your job offer or letter says full-time, part-time. What matters is how many hours does it say. So even if it was part-time, but you had 30 hours per week at least, then your points will be as per full-time. So you can still claim 1 year of experience if you have completed at least 1,560 hours over a span of 12 months. Currently uploading my foreign employment records for CEC application. For pay stubs, how many months should I include? Would last 3 be enough? Well, for CEC applications, I prefer to include 1 year complete documentation. So 1 year pay stubs, I prefer it. So that would be about 26 pay stubs. I include T4s, I include notice of assessment, reference letter, of course. So it's my personal choice that I would rather like to cover whole 1 year. A lot of people also do first 3 months, last 3 months, and then few in between. So you could go with that. And if IRCC needs more, they will ask you for it. My CRS is 520. Is there any chance for the points to go down? Is there any chance for CEC drop? So guys, this thing about chances, I don't know. I don't think anybody out there knows. Yes, we all predict, we all speculate, but nobody really knows when, how, what. So yes, CEC draws, in my opinion, continues. 520 is a good score. As and when IRCC starts issuing more invitations, you will see the scores will drop down. And with that, I think 520 is a very distinct possibility. My work permit got expired, but I've applied for LMIA and visitor record. Can I continue my job if visitor record gets approved since I'm waiting for LMIA for same? No, not at all. Absolutely not. The minute you have applied for visitor record, you can't work. The day your work permit expired, you have to stop working because you applied for visitor record. You've changed your status. That means while you can continue staying in Canada, you cannot work until your new work permit has been approved. So LMIA has got nothing to do with your work authorization. LMIA is a document which says you can apply for a work permit. It doesn't mean you can work. So even after your LMIA is approved, you will have to apply for work permit. Once your work permit is approved, then only you can work. Thanks for all your helpful videos. I got my ECO PR last week. Well done, well done. Congratulations, Falgun. I am so happy. I'm so glad you posted this message. These messages really make me happy. This is it's a testament of somebody's perseverance. It's a testament of somebody's patience. And great job, well done. Congratulations. Basit, I'm sorry, there's no question here. Right, we'll just take a couple of more questions before I scoot off. My spouse and I are PR card holders. We did soft landing, came back to our home country. My baby is born outside Canada. We need to travel back to Canada with the baby. What is the process? Well, the first thing you can do is you can apply for a visit visa or TRV for your child. If it gets approved, then you can travel with your child to Canada and then apply for sponsorship PR application under family class. If your TRV does not get approved, then that would be unfortunate, and then one of the parents will have to travel to Canada and then apply for sponsorship for the child while you are in Canada and the child is outside Canada. If I visit India and received an ITA for express entry, can I submit my application from India, and how do I handle the police clearance certificate? Well, you can change your country of residence to India because you are in India and you want to submit your application from there. And then you can obtain your police clearance from Passport Seva Kendra, and it will be valid for 6 months because your country of residence is India. And then after that, if you travel back to Canada, then raise a web form, inform IRCC about change of address, and let them know that you are now in Canada and you would like for your virtual landing process to be done instead. Nothing here, nothing here. Last question. Oh, sorry, one more question here. Okay. Mistake made while applying for ICT in start, end month of my work experience. Not going to claim points for it. Any issue in PR processing? No, that should be fine. Just make sure you make sure you correct it and put that in your personal history, and then that will be fine. I'm listed with the Quebec Rental Board and a collection agency due to a wrongful payment claim. Could this impact my permanent residency application in future? No, it will not impact your permanent residency application. It has got nothing to do, no bearing on you in any manner. Yeah, don't worry about it. It's not going to have any problem. 6 months of work experience as machinist and another 6 months in March to September. Am I eligible for Ontario skilled trade in 2025? You would be if your work experience, even if it is cumulative, if it is within the last 2 years and you have at least 1 year of work experience with an Ontario employer inside Canada, then yes, you would be eligible under the Ontario skilled trade. Nothing there, sorry. My PCC mentions from birth to date at another city. I was born in another city, but my parents had permanent address in another address. I don't understand the question, dude. Yeah, okay. So after the age of, so I know what you're talking about, that you were born in a different city, but the birth certificate is from a different, your police clearance from a different city mentions from birth. It doesn't matter. You'll be good to go as long as you are in that city after the age of 18 and you stayed there. Your police clearance is basically required since the age of 18 onwards for the last 10 years. So it doesn't matter if it mentions from the birth onwards, it's fine. Don't worry about it. I know what the concern here is, but if the other city from where you got the police clearance, if you lived there after the age of 18, then you're fine. Got roles and responsibilities letter from the previous employer, worked 6 years for that employer, started as this to this. NOC was not mentioned in doc. Any issues? I honestly don't understand the question. The point is that as long as the NOC code that you have chosen versus the roles and responsibilities on your letter, if those two match, then you're fine. If there is a discrepancy in that, then that is a problem. So in your roles and responsibilities letter, if whatever the duties are mentioned that match with the NOC code that you have chosen in your application, that is the most important factor. Can I apply PR without spouse and add her later if the CRS cutoff is under 507 CEC? Yes, you can. There is no problem. I just answered that question in detail a bit earlier. You may want to see the video a bit earlier and see this. Well, that's all that I have for you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining in. By all means, please follow us on Instagram. And of course, do book your appointments. That's the link. Virtual consultations in person. If I'm right now in Dubai. So by all means, in Dubai, if you wish to. Otherwise, in Saudi, 17th and 18th in Riyadh. 19th and 20th in Jeddah. By all means, very, very happy to meet any one of you who's interested to talk about their immigration journeys, the immigration process. This is the link. By all means, make an appointment and I'll be very happy to have a chat with you and see what possibilities might be in store for you. Thank you so much for joining in. This has been great catching up once again. I shall see you next time. Take care. Goodbye.